British playwright W. Somerset Monaghan said, "Every production of an artist should be the expression of an adventure of his soul." This is the Producers Lounge podcast. I'm your host, Richard Tucci, and on this week's episode, we have producers Sean Akers and Corey Moosa, partners in Before the Door with star Zachary Quinto, and producers of The Banshee Chapter. Starring Ted Levine of Silence of the Lambs, The Banshee Chapter is a terrifying new horror film, now available on iTunes. I won't hold back, let's dive into my dinner with Corey and Sean. So when did you guys first decide you were interested in filmmaking?
Have we decided yet? I'm not interested in filmmaking. I'm actually in it for the women.
Oh.
I'm in it for I would say money, but the glory. I'm in it for the glory too. I want to change my glory. Okay. I'm in it for the glory. You please. Yeah, and you go next. Wow, we're really doing this. It's going to be recorded.
Generally, that's what happens when microphones are...
My entry into this, it's true, microphones are so intimidating. My entry into all of this was, it really started when I was young in the world of theater, really more than film. And I've had a deep love for the theater since I was a little kid. My older sister used to be in the theater. I used to go see plays all the time. And that kind of led my path throughout my youth and into college as to what it is I wanted to study. And that's where I met Zach and Neal, my two producing partners, Zachary Quinto, Neal Dodson. We all met at Carnegie Mellon University, I think in 1996. And it's been a while since then, and everybody kind of went their own way after college and did their own thing. And I went to New York, Neal went to New York, Zach came by to LA. We all kind of did different things. Neal eventually moved to Los Angeles and became a producer. We all met up later in life in Los Angeles. Neal had been doing a little producing. Zach were just clubbed heroes. I'd been in New York producing theater. We came together. When I moved out to LA, and right around the time Zach started doing Star Trek, we were like, hey, let's do this. And that was just over 5 years ago, and that's right when we met Sean. Sean's been part of the company since the very beginning, but even though he did not go to college with us at Carnegie Mellon in Pittsburgh, that's where he is from. So,
right, I would have been out of college by the time they were in college, so that's okay. I was out of college. I shouldn't say I would have been. I was out of college by that.
Now they know how old you are, because
older than you.
Hey, I went to college in 1996. They can piece it together.
Oh my gosh, they're gonna know. They're gonna know. I look good for 40. Wait, for the radio. I look good for radio.
You sound much older.
I do, I said.
You have a deep, smoky matureness to your breath.
Yes. So cool. And I came to LA maybe 6 years ago, and met these guys thereafter and decided that this is what I wanted to do, so I stayed. And when I came into the company, they had Margin Call as a script and were looking. They were starting to piece together some of the early casting ideas and financing ideas, and things changed a lot from that point. Someone would be in one day, out the next day. We'd have different ideas, but we were really focused, I guess, on Margin Call.
Well, starting a production company and getting your feet wet in that business, it took us a couple of years. It took us a couple of years until our first real big success, which was Margin Call. And it took us kind of trying everything you could possibly think of that a person could do to just try and get our foot in the door in any aspect, whether that was in film or in television or in graphic novels, which we have tiptoed into, or the internet, really. We kind of thought that our entry-level position was to utilize the web in a way that we hadn't seen utilized quite before in terms of storytelling. Why don't you say something?
I would. The first things that we were doing, besides Margin Call, which was a feature, we were looking at pitching as many different kinds of things as we could. So it was sort of the early era of web series. And so we were looking at those options, trying to come up with an idea that might work for web series. Zach was on Heroes, and there were some spin-off web series. When we were print, I believe, those two, the mini hero episodes and things. So we thought that might be a direction. that the world was going, so I mean, you should be aware. So we spent a lot of time researching and figuring out how things worked. And I think our overall focus was, let's make a feature film, but let's also try to figure out how we can create content in any platform.
And I think what we discovered along the way while we were doing that was when we spent those first couple of years just trying to do as much as we can do and tiptoe into as many different places as we could. And what we were trying to do at that time was really kind of figure out and understand, well, what is it that people want? And that's probably one of the first mistakes that somebody can make as a young producer, is trying to figure out what somebody else wants, because you're not going to. You should actually try and figure out what you want and take it from there. And I think one of the things that we enjoy about our company and what's happened is, you know, by the time we made Margin Call, we were making that movie because it was something we felt passionately about. We found that script, we sorted through that material and made a decision very quickly that it was the next piece of material we wanted to approach, and we threw ourselves into it 100%, and the results were really good. And that was an attempt of actually trying to follow through on something that we felt passionate about. Sometimes we tiptoed into areas we just weren't passionate about.
We went, and knowing now, looking back, Margin Call took a long time to get up and running. Then we shot it and edited and did post and did Sundance. And Sundance premiere was in January, and the movie didn't come out till October. Yeah, we sold the movie at Sundance, and it was essentially the finished film. But there was delivery and all the different paperwork we could do, but it was also scheduling when it should come out during the year, when Roadside Landscape could handle that release. So when you look at Margin Call, it was like a 3-year-long process for us. And not that we're getting daily emails now about, you know, you have to turn this in or turn that in, but making a movie in general is a long process. You have to love what you're doing from beginning to end, or it's not worth it. So as that part of the education for us was, don't go after web series or just little ideas that you might think are, you know, if you fall in love with an idea, and there are so many people out there who have web series or comic books and stuff because they're so passionate, they just go out and make it. That wasn't what we were doing. We wanted to be passionate about making a feature, and all the other things were extraneous, almost as if they were distractions.
We didn't want to miss any potential opportunities, and I think that's what actually led us to Margin Call, and I think it's probably what I would tell anybody who's starting out is you have to try and create as many opportunities as possible for yourself, throw as many things on the wall that you're passionate about, and something has to stay.
Right. So as far as Margin Call, when you're putting this together, because I think that was a coup de grace for you guys originally. I think it was on one of those lists, like of the 20 greatest scripts in Hollywood that'll never get made because they're so good.
It was on a list like that. It's on a few lists.
And then you acquired it from the writer. Was it, can I ask?
I'd say we had acquired it from the writer before it found its way onto any lists whatsoever. I would say this film hadn't seen the light of day until we got in there. And that was just the history of JC at the time, filmmaker, like where he was in his career, and we were his potential door into the industry, and he was our potential door into the industry.
So in these ways, man, beneficial partnership. Right. When you find someone who's that talented of a writer, who has the experience, enough experience to go ahead and make a first directorial debut, and they not only pull it off, but they pull it off really well. You know, and they're beyond competent, and they're trustworthy, and they, you know, someone who you just get along. It works. It's a symbiotic thing, you know. It's the producers are always working for the director, and the director is working for the film that the producer has to then, you know, finance and make sure everything else is working with, and do all the little bits and details that work on screen and non-creative parts. So we're all working through the same effort. And when you have someone like JC, who had a vision that we can easily follow, say, we believe in it. You believed in us, and it works. There are other projects that you get that, you know, either the script's great, but then you meet the director and you're like, holy crap, that person is crazy. Or you meet a person who you think is a visionary, and then you get their script, and it's not great at all. Are you going to name names? I'm not going to name names, but please feel free. We get a lot of scripts. We get a lot of script submissions, get a lot of cold calls. I usually take all those things and filter through.
Oh, yeah.
And so there are people who are very pushy. There are people who are very unique and quiet. The whole range of people coming to us with ideas. And the funny thing is, after we did Margin Call, I sit the dearth of them with financial movies. I have a great Wall Street movie too. You should make that. As if our company was only designed to make financial movies. Our company is not made to make financial movies. Our company is made to make what we think are good movies.
What's the common thread is never going to be genre for us on what we're picking. It's quality storytelling. We're just interested in telling stories that we find captivating, relevant, funny. But it's our kind of personal taste. I think we're pretty decent.
I mean, it's nice to have a group of us who all have differing opinions and differing tastes. Corey is a horror fan. He also selects other genres, sci-fi and drama, whatever comedies. I don't like horror particularly. So when the two of us read a horror script and we both like it, that means something. It means it's a good story and it's a well-told thing, and it's probably not gory, because I hate gory. I get freaked out by that idea. So when we can come to that centerpoint, say yes, he loves it for the horror and I love it for a completely different reason, then there's something serious to look at. It makes a lot of sense for us to pursue something that I normally wouldn't like, or he wouldn't. Or obviously Neal and Zach also go through and they pick things that they think are fantastic, and we read them and come from different points of view.
We don't sign on to a project unless everybody on our internal team of For the Door Pictures has signed off on doing so. It will be a unanimous decision,
because it really takes work from each of us to make something happen.
and that's why we actually have tiptoed into all of these different genres and types of things that we're doing, because it's a broad spectrum. You had individual people with individual tastes bringing those flavors to the table. Then you have the rest of us kind of vetting those and saying which ones, as a company, we want to move forward with. Okay, so we kind of protect each other from making sometimes poor decisions.
Well, I mean, it's very easy if one of us finds something that you just are super gung-ho about to have some checks and balances.
Yeah.
Because someone else could read it and say, it doesn't really make sense, or I see what you love about this, but you need to change this or that. Corey is a really good reader for story. Like, he understands story and character in a way that some of the rest of us don't necessarily see right away. So when he reads a script, he comes back with very different notes than I do, where I'm like, where can I put my favorite, Meg Ryan movie in comparison to this movie? I remember Meg Ryan, or I love that, Julia Roberts, or whatever. I love romantic comedies. I don't know how this is going to mesh with, if I read a romantic comedy and Corey reads it and he's like, that is just crap. I just like it because it's cute. It has this happy ending. I'm not saying that I'm going to limit myself to romantic comedy.
We won't stop there. If I said, I think this is crap, somebody else will read it then, and we'll keep talking about it. So we don't take it lightly. We consider things from many angles before we would start approaching it. And then, as Sean was saying, it's a labor of love when you commit yourself to one of these projects, and if you're going to see it through from the beginning, from the point of like the creation of the material, or just having that material and then finding the funding to the very last pieces of delivery to the distributors, or dealing with the Blu-rays or the DVDs. You're with it every minute from start to finish. So better be something that everybody's got in their head wrapped around and they want to do. So you're really hands-on producers, Robin. That's that.
Yeah, I think that's a differentiator for us as a company too. There are very few projects that we would want to take on where we wouldn't want to be the people who are in charge / responsible. Not that we want the power, but that's nice for us. But I think it's the fact that if someone's along the process the whole way through, you're the only through line except the director. The director is there from the beginning but they may not have written the script. They may not have found it. In our case, luckily, most of the time they have. We've like our directors.
I mean, I don't think there's any kind of school of producing, you know?
There's really not. There's the Peter Stark program in SC, but other than that, there's really not much.
And it's like, maybe we're not ready to have something like that because everything's always changing. It's kind of a producer's responsibility not to get stuck in one way of thinking, but to be able to continue staying open-minded, to continue changing as the technology is changing, as the venues and the platforms for which the material that we're creating can be released on changes, you have to be able to change. And I think, you know, one of the things that we've taken to producing, to speak more on what Sean was saying, is there is no school of it. I don't know. Some producers, you never see them. They can start a process and they pop in and maybe they check in every couple of weeks, but they're pretty much not involved. That could be the case. Be the case that somebody's name is on it, you'll never see them at all. That could be the case. The way we like to approach it, and I don't know if we're going to be able to continue doing this because it's a lot, but no, we like to be on set every minute of the shoot. We like to be the first person there and the last person to leave. And we like to oversee every part of it in production, and post. We like to solve the problems that need to be solved, put out the fires that have to be put out, and just get the job done. It's time consuming to do that. It doesn't allow us to necessarily work on as many projects simultaneously as we would like to because we're really, you know, trying to protect our babies. So we're trying to figure out now how to balance that a little bit better and how to basically multitask a little bit more. But at the same time, we don't want to lose the quality of what it is we've done. Yeah, we're trying to figure out the best of both worlds on that and how to always be available for the film that we're doing, even if we're not necessarily there.
As a company grows, I think you'll get, if we were to hire people, we would have people who we could assign to do things that we would trust. They would, you know, teach them our ways and they would teach us their ways, in which, you know, we're always learning. Even from an intern, you can learn. And I think then you would have people who are on set all the time. Then maybe we as a crew couldn't be, or all of us couldn't be. Corey and I did a movie. We did Banshee Chapter. It's we're trying really hard to only say it.
There's a lot to tell about that movie.
Yeah.
Really?
We did that in New Mexico. It was the two of us on set with the director and the producers that were already on film, and Neal and Zach were. I said it, so I couldn't. Zach was doing Angels America, and so he was in New York for most of the time. And Neal was prepping another film, which was All Is Lost. But he was in the early phase of All Is Lost, getting that started.
Now, the way we started, I guess the way we kind of started was, on Margin Call, we all worked together on that. And after we had that learning experience and the pleasure of making that movie and the success that came with it, that was phase one of our company, or was Margin Call. And phase two was, let's get more movies out there. So that's when we separated as a company so we could take on more projects and not have to have all three partners on the same movie at the same time. Although we did break up at a wedding between those two. We did. So we did another movie right after Margin Call that we did that all three of us were definitely on as well. So we were all in New York to break up at a wedding.
Which shot very quickly. It was a very small independent, and it's on iTunes, Amazon too. It's like
it was phase two of the company, and I would say we've successfully completed phase two of the company, which was to make a handful more films on the momentum and success of Margin Call, but more films than we had in just Margin Call, not one, but like, let's make three, which we did. And let's start to stand on more than just the success of Margin Call. Let's start to stand on the success as a company and as of the other films. So the point of releasing, these three films now that we've basically done 1, 2, 3, the third being Banshee Chapter, which is about to open, then we move on to phase 3. And that's what Sean was talking about. And it's like where we're going to move on to even more movies now for our next phase. We want to grow our staff in this part of the company. We want to grow our infrastructure to include a lot more help.
Gotcha. Can I ask specifically, as a growing company, Because you're right at that crux where you're about to hit big, basically. When you're looking at the divisions you need to fill in, where do you say, all right, let's bring in this part of the team that we'd like to work?
It's where we're thin right now. Where we go, we're thin. And it's like, particularly for us, we want television in our lives. We've tiptoed into the television world. We've had a little success. We want more. We want to do more. We don't have a whole lot of experience in that world. We're busy making movies. We would want to bring in a head of television that would come in and help us sort through all the different pilots, who has relationships that we don't have with a bunch of different showrunners and a bunch of different connections with inside the networks and the cable stations. We would isolate that person, bring them onto our team, and then hope that they would be able to expand their own department beyond them, so then they would also include a staff. But it is like building one piece at a time, and that's probably where we would start with our expansion, is that, and we'd want to,
Right. I mean, we called it high-class problems in the beginning when we used to think, oh my God, what if we put out 5 or 6 different ideas and they all go at the same time? What would we do? We're going to die. And they are all high-class problems. What's running, when that problem comes, we'll get there. And to this point, we really haven't had too much crossover to try film to film. While we did Banshee, Neal started early paperwork on All Is Lost. We finished shooting. We did Banshee, and we're in editing far before All Is Lost.
I'm sorry, when you say paperwork, is that script notes or?
Well, no, I mean, once we decide to do a film, the paperwork starts really with getting your lawyer, getting your business set up, chain of titles, just all of your original paperwork to start your financing, to make sure everything's in order, and to go out to finance.
An easy mistake of somebody who hasn't done this before would be the unorganization that might come on the first project that you do, which you might not even understand how you should be organizing or what you should be organizing. By the time you're done with that project, with that journey, if you've done it right, and if you've done it successfully, and you've sold the movie now, and you have to deliver to a distributor, then you're going to have to get all of that paperwork that you should have started having on day one. And you'll know that once you go through it, and you will have a system of organization then that keeps every single piece of paper intact and in order.
Let's talk specifics about that, because obviously nobody here is a lawyer that I'm aware of. But, in addition to getting a lawyer that can consult you properly, how do you decide who's the best lawyer for a project, or is it just personal relations? And then, other than chain of title, what other aspects of that initial organization you focus on?
I mean, being a producer is a little bit of everything in terms of what your background should be. So where I'm not a lawyer, Sean is not a lawyer, nobody at our company is a lawyer.
Zach might have played a lawyer on some TV show.
Zach might have seen a lawyer on... I don't know. Don't know. However, we've gotten quite good at reading through the legal jargon. I'm not going to say I'm a lawyer and I could, cite a bunch of cases, but I know what I'm looking at in terms of what these contracts are. I know what red flags are. I know what red flags aren't. Also, accounting is like another aspect that, I do all of the accounting for before the door. It's like, who else would we hire? A general office manager who could help run the office and help do some of the minor bookkeeping and stuff. But it's like, it's crazy. So when you get faced with all of these different things and, you don't have an education in this, you kind of, this might be sidetracking a little, but here's the greatest lesson anybody can have. In this business, the best thing you could possibly do is shut your mouth and listen to what everybody else has to say around you. If you're making a movie and you're hiring all of your crew, your line producer, your gaffer, your art department, if you don't know what you're doing, well, don't hide that and pretend that you know what you're doing by saying a bunch of stuff. This is like what happens all the times on sets. You have producers walking around, running around, shouting things they don't know what they're talking about. So I feel like one of the things that helps us, what's helped us make quality movies, is that we do know how to shut up and listen. We won't talk unnecessarily, absorb everything that everybody is saying to you. It's all equally important. because there is not a right or a wrong with all of this, because it is all up for interpretation, you have to take the best of what everybody else is saying and see what works for you. But the only way you're going to be able to do that is if you listen to what they have to say in the first place.
Yeah. There is a sort of process that we followed and that we've gotten together in how we do things. So, specifically towards the question, what are the first things you do when you get a script and your director in place? Actually, Ted Hope has a 99 steps that he has posted on his website. He's a great indie producer. That 99 steps, I sort of whittled down from my costs, but it's the same steps that we essentially go through. And it's while you're constantly working on the story, the script, the film itself with your director, making sure you've got exactly what you want to shoot, you're also doing your paperwork and organizing. And that involves essentially starting a business, because you're starting a company. As a film, you're a company.
That's one of the things most people don't know, is that with every new film, you start a new legal entity to insulate and protect the parent company.
Boy, is that a pain in the butt.
Yeah.
Like those things each cost money. They each have annual fees. They have to have taxes filed for them every single year. Well, after the movie is over, you still have to file for the taxes. You have to save that money.
Yeah, feasibly, if Margin Call is in a 15-year distribution deal, we have to keep that company open because that company owns the rights. Well, not even owns the rights. They own the copyright. So that company is there. After 15 years, that company can renegotiate with another company for distribution. But that company has to exist for 15 years. So every year they have to say, we received no money. Because the money doesn't come to Margin Call.
Right.
It goes paid out to all of you.
You can open more accounts. You can open sub-accounts of the accounts. I generally want to open a production entity then after you've opened your initial entity where all of the money for your budget is going to flow through. And you have to open separate bank accounts to coincide with each one of these different LLCs or corporations or C Corps, depending on how you want to do business.
Wow. But doesn't Entertainment Partners help, or other payroll companies help filter that? Or is it
can, but payroll doesn't really start your business for you. Usually it's your lawyer.
Oh, right.
You set up your business and set up your bank.
Payroll will come on the actual working of the film, and they will help process all of the fees that go out to the assorted cast and crew throughout, and you'll have a production accountant who helps with that. Some of this, I guess what we're talking about is some of it's like the difference between what you do we have a production company. We run an office. We don't just do movie and then go home and wait till the next movie. We go back to work right the next day. So there's a whole different set of things that need to happen to run that office than needs to happen to run each individual film. And we generally have way more resources available to us on each individual film than we would in terms of our own business. We don't have just an accountant that we can go to every day for our own business, but when you're doing the film, that's that person's main job. The production accountant takes care of what needs to be taken care of.
So then let's talk about all of this kind of in the process of Banshee Chapter. When did the property first come to Before the Door?
In the instance of Bad Film, it was also written by another Carnegie Mellon graduate. Before the Door has a tendency to work with a lot of people that we've known for a long time, people that have become successful with nothing to do with Before the Door, that we knew from school, that we like to continue working together. So Banshee Chapter came from writer-director Blair Erickson, who graduated at the same year that Neal and I did from Carnegie Mellon. It's not like he's somebody that either of us had seen in a while. It just it came up. His script came. He didn't get any special attention as a result of sending his script, except that, I was going to read it at some point. Right. And, me as a horror fan, I read dozens and dozens of scripts. I was looking for what our first genre property was going to be at Before the Door, what our first piece of horror was going to be. And this script scared me, which hadn't happened in terms of me reading and actually getting scared with what was on the piece of paper before the director inserts all of their creepy sounds and gimmicks and scare tactics. And it was awesome, and everybody else got behind it pretty quick because they knew that we wanted to get a movie like this going, and we went into it. And it's the same way with any script that would come to us. Like, we sort through lots of different piles of scripts. I'd say there are 3 piles. There is the pile that comes from submissions through our agents and managers, the official like submission process that will comes before the door. There's the blind submissions that come that people will send generally to a general email account.
And we're not supposed to, even now, like that's not the way the business works.
Right.
And so we really try not to even, I'll send back emails saying, sorry, this is not the way, you send it through our agent because they vet our stuff first. They don't give us just anything.
We also need to make sure that if we're reading anything that comes from somebody, we have a submission release form that we go through a little bit of paperwork to protect ourselves just in the event that somebody goes a little bananas. That 3rd pile is friends and family. And that's like, that's a fairly massive pile that you end up going through. And because it's friends and because it's family, you don't read 2 pages necessarily and say, okay, there's no way I'm working on this. You go through the whole thing because you're doing it as a friend or as a family member or whatever, and you want to be able to then, if you're going to tell them that you're not able to move forward on their project, you at least want to be able to tell them why, some ideas, some notes, or how you could suggest they would move forward with this.
When you look at what we've actually produced, Margin Call was not a friends and family project, but Breakup at a Wedding was. That was Victor Kinosh, who was in their class at Carnegie Mellon. He was the director, and he and his wife and brother wrote the film, and they all are in the film, along with several of our other friends.
Even while Margin Call and All Is Lost is not technically what I would call our friends and family category, it came to us through that category.
Right. It came through us. It's a solid script that came through a friend's.
Right, but it wasn't as if JC was another person who'd gone to school with that, like Matt Lair did or like Victor did. We did a short called Dog Eat Dog with Sean Hayter. She's a writer, Orange Lily Wack, and she wrote and directed this short that we did about dog adoption, about Zach's actual story of how he found his dog. They have been very close since college, and she exaggerated it as a real life story, and we created that. She has since, gone on to write and work on Orange is the New Black, which is fantastic. But Michael McMillan, who is in Banshee Chapter, also was the writer of our first Commonwealth. And Michael was in their class of school. And Victor, who was in with the wedding movie, also wrote our second comic book, Mr. Murder is Dead. So literally, this was an opportunity for these guys, particularly to go back to all of their friends who had been supportive of them over the years and say, how can we support you? How can we live with you? And there are far more things. We have a project in our slate now from another person from Carnegie Mellon, and 2 entirely different projects that have nothing to do with any of the history or friends and family type stuff that are just brand new out of the industry. This is how it came to us based on they saw All Is Lost or they saw Margin Call, one of the others even, and said, this is what we want to do. But want to go and work with these guys. So it's not an exclusive club, so to speak. It's not as if we only work with Carnegie Mellon people, because I'm not a Carnegie Mellon person.
If we only worked with Carnegie Mellon people, it would be a disaster. So we do try and keep it open. But it'd be that incestual.
That class, though, that series of years between when Zach was there at Corey and Neal were there, over that course, has produced Joe Manganiello from True Blood, Michael McMullen from True Blood, Matt Bomer from White Collar, Cody DePablo from NCIS. Wow, those are just 4 of their classmates. It's a really designer. And yeah, Corey.
I'm trying to think, when we were all on steroids when we were... We cheated. We definitely cheated.
Weird that Pittsburgh's actor steroid community is such a big underground.
All I can say is, really, college only steroids? That's it.
It was Carnegie Mellon. It was kind of nerdy there.
Yeah.
But it was from Carnegie Mellon. I mean, there's lots of people. Mixon,
Josh Gad.
There's a ton of people on Broadway.
Yes, Broadway. Tons of people on Broadway. Patrick Wilson.
Right. You seriously cannot you can't spit in any direction to LA or New York without hitting somebody that went to Carnegie Mellon. JC came through a gentleman named Joseph Jenks, who was actually a friend of JC's from childhood, and he was a mutual friend of Neal's, Joe Jenks. And he's basically the one who said, hey, you guys should read this script. My friend JC is going to be in town. Got it. So we actually did, and we were like, holy crap, this is great. Mm-hmm. And, Neal, me, and Zach were all theater geeks. And margin call on paper, you have to understand on paper, this is like a great piece of theater. Yeah, it's like a Mamet piece.
Yeah, it read totally like a David Mamet piece right off the bat. Everybody's thinking like Glengarry Glen Ross. Mm-hmm. So we were just like, wow, this is real actor bait. As actors, we were like, this is actor bait. I bet you we could bring this to any number of people and they would be pretty excited to work on this project. Not just that it was actor bait, but it was on a subject that at the time, too, was so relevant.
Mm-hmm. Right, it was written during the financial crisis, and then things sort of slowed down, and then we came back we released the movie just as we had, Lionsgate and Roadside sort of put together Occupy Wall Street. I don't know if you know that, but we faked Occupy Wall Street just to make a margin call go.
Yeah, we created Occupy Wall Street. It was staged.
For a second, you guys actually had me.
Yeah.
For a second.
It was perfect timing.
I did that.
So then Banshee Chapter, I'm sorry we got back around. Banshee Chapter is the project that came in from the Carnegie Mellon.
Banshee Chapter and another film of ours called Break Up at a Wedding that came out a few months ago. Mm-hmm. So yeah, they came in from Carnegie Mellon. That came basically directly from the source. Mm-hmm. When the script is good, when we love the script, it's a pretty quick decision. It actually isn't usually something that takes us like months and months of drawn out debating and discussing. It's actually quite the opposite. Mm-hmm. Whenever we've moved forward on a project, we've done it rapidly. Mm-hmm. It's like if one of us reads the script and says, oh my God, I think this is one of our next ones, everybody else basically drops what they're doing. Those 3 piles that we have get pushed to the side, and this thing goes on the very top, and we all read it. It goes kind of quick.
And then do you time, as far as when you decide, okay, we love this, how do you time when you go out with pitches to financiers? Is it a strategic maneuver like?
It's different depending on each individual project, but essentially it depends on how much is already in place with the project. So going out to a financier, like if the project has nothing, if it's coming basically with a director, a writer-director and us as producers, then it basically has nothing. If that writer-director is a first-time writer-director, which we've done a lot of first-time writer-director work, that's what we do. And then it's like we need to make sure that writer-director has something that we could sell about them. There has to be some quality about them as a first-timer that we can get financiers feeling confident and excited about, whether that's a short that they've worked on or another film that they've worked on in a different capacity. Whatever it is, whatever they've been doing to establish themselves over the years, that becomes part of our package that we would approach financing with.
Right. Well, if you look at the Ted Hope list, I will mention again, Ted Hope's idea is you create a package of a great script, great director, talent, and put those together, 2 pieces of talent, really. And he says that will be enough of a package to go to a financier. But it's not that one of those pieces is going to be
not necessarily a financier first. It depends. It could be going straight to a source of equity. It could be going straight to a source of equity that we know, to a source of equity that somebody's introduced us to, or we can go the route, which we love doing, of partnering up with some sales agents right away on the initial inception of the project, and they help package the financing from the get-go. Or, it's producing. It could be, there's some crappy realities about what it is we do. And it's like when you sit down with the piece before you have anything attached to it and you start talking to different sales reps, whether they're foreign or domestic, and they start telling you, okay, well, I can get you this much money with one of these 10 names in this role. And if I don't get one of these 10 names, then this financier won't go for it.
And that becomes part of what we have to do in finding that balance of finding a name that's going to satisfy the equity, also satisfy the director, and basically be able to pull it off. And it's not easy. And then you have to like get that person to agree to become part of the film. And it's not like there's going to be like 30 people that do it, that you're going after one after another. Usually when all is said and done, when all different people start poking at it and having to have their name on this thing, like you're limited to a very few set of people that are going to work for all the different parties involved.
As far as talent?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, Banshee wasn't that case. Banshee had something very different that we were able to use to sell. And actually, it wasn't Corey and I weren't really selling this. We came on with another producer who was another Carnegie Mellon grad. Her name's Stephanie Riggs. And she, along with Blair, went to a financier named Christian Arnold Boyle. He's German. And he'd financed things in the past, Ironclad and several other films. He worked in those. And his interest in Banshee was not only because it was a good script, but we had planned to shoot in 3D. And which we did. And that was enough for him to say, that's a really exciting opportunity. That got him interested. And he, Stephanie, Corey, and I, with Blair, worked on then developing out who we could cast that would make some sense and who we could bring in. And we started looking at acting reels for actresses.
Well, it's different. You know, different genres have different needs. And like in the horror genre, for example, that is a genre that is generally not dependent on talent needing to be in place to finance that. There'll be other circumstances, generally about the creative team or just the creative elements of the story. If the script is that good, people want to get behind it.
Right. You don't need to get an Emma Stone or a...
Right. In the case of Banshee Chapter, actually, the film was pretty much... The film got financed rapidly. Between the time we got involved and the time it got financed was just a short period of time.
It's like a couple months. Wow.
Yeah.
Christian was very quick to make a decision and commit, which was fantastic. It just also threw us into sort of that, okay,
mind you, it had nothing to do with us. It had nothing to do with Before the Door's name or reputation at the time.
Really?
We didn't have much of a reputation. It had to do with the script.
Christian, who facilitated everything, he was sold on the script.
He was sold on the director. He was sold on our other producing partner on that film, Stephanie. He liked the package. That's what enticed him. But it wasn't because, hey, we were the guys who did this or that, or we were working with Zachary Quinto. We hadn't popped yet. So that movie just came together all on its own like that. And we just made it really fast. We just kind of went out to New Mexico immediately, and we were shooting within 6 weeks of being out there. And the Avengers were shooting the exact same time we were shooting. In
New Mexico?
The Avengers shot all over the place. But they definitely shot some segments in New Mexico, and they took... Basically, New Mexico is a decent filming scene. They shot Breaking Bad and In Plain Sight and a bunch of other TV shows and movies. They have a great tax incentive. The entire local crew of people that you would normally be working with had been completely taken up by the Avengers, and it was ridiculously challenging finding the people that we ended up finding to be our crew on the movie. It was picking from all sorts of weird categories, and I'm very happy with the crew that we found. But it's it was a challenge just because we were the tiny film in town, right? So yeah.
And as for the cast, we found Corey. I think you may have been the one who found Katya, but an amazing girl, amazing talent. She's awesome. She's just an awesome person.
Lead actress was Katya. Lead actress is blowing up right now. She's the star, one of the 4 stars of Sleepy Hollow on Fox.
Wow.
Which we're thrilled. We're thrilled that her career is taking off in conjunction with this movie coming out.
So we're also thrilled just because she was like a rock star. She came in
A what-take wonder.
Yeah, she totally was. She was just like a normal, nice person. She'd been an actress overseas. She'd grown up in Sweden and London. And
Here's the way to tell it, actually. After coming off of a film like Margin Call and working with some really huge personalities, and I have no horror stories to tell about the cast of Margin Call. They were awesome, wonderful people.
Meredith was a dream. I love her so much.
They were all awesome, great people to work with, but like these were huge movie stars, and in order to have a huge movie star in a small film like Margin Call, like we had to make the experience the best we could for them. And it's like they have requests, they have certain standards that just make sense for them in terms of where they are in their careers. And it's like we had to take care of that. And then going into a movie like Banshee Chapter, it's like, with Katya, for example, who at the time, didn't have a huge reputation, but I'm bending over backwards for this girl because that's the way I learned how to make a movie. And it didn't matter to me if she was a huge movie star or if she was like somebody who's been seen once or twice in a small film here or there. I was going to treat her exactly the same way, make sure that all of her needs were taken care of. And she was basically like, "What are you doing?"
She's like, "I'm a normal person." She's like, "I show up in t-shirt and jeans. I'm like a normal, let's hang out. Let's have pizza." And actually the first time we sat with Ted Levine, we actually just went to a pizza joint with Ted, who has been acting forever. And Ted's sort of iconic because of Silence of the Lambs and then Mountain. He's Bridge now. He has all these different, long-term history of Ted Levine. But here was another guy who he wanted to be taken care of, and he was well taken care of, but he also did freaking nice, normal.
He was just chilled out, like, for example, in a movie like Margin Call, we gave everybody in the cast a cell phone, a company cell phone. So basically when the crew was calling them or somebody to tell them their call or anything else, nobody was getting access to their personal cell phone numbers.
Right.
And that's just something we learned on that movie, and we've put into effect at other times. Tried to do it on Banshee Chapter, tried to do it for Ted, and it's like before I even met him, and he just didn't understand. He'd be on the phone, and he'd be like, why do I need to know the phone? It's like, I'll just use my cell phone. What's the big deal? I'm like, well, I don't want to give your number to anybody else. He was like, I don't care.
By the way, that's a great Buffalo Bill impersonation.
Oh God, I hope he never listens to this. Hi, Ted. I love you.
And our third lead, Michael McMillan, again, horror fan, friend from Carnegie Mellon, had done our comic book. We were just excited to have him in a project with us.
He's a classmate from Carnegie, and it's like was the director's first choice. And the director pretty much got his first choice for everybody wanted, which was cool about this movie. But Ted was absolutely first choice for our director. It was cool. So cool that Ted said yes and came along for the ride. He was awesome. Right, like Michael, it was just a friend from school. And it's funny because a lot of the crew took him very seriously because they were like, oh my God, it's that dude from True Blood. And he's probably the person that I gave the least amount of love to because he is just a buddy from college. I was like, you don't care if we just, put you up at a cheap hotel, do you? Or I was like, you don't care if I pick you up. You don't need a car service, right?
And Michael's not the type that's like that. He's like, yeah, sure. I was like, let's get some comic books and hang out. That would be cool.
Yeah, actually, Michael's awesome. It was fun. Everybody was really cool on that movie. It was a cool cast. Yeah, low key. There were challenges, of course.
Rattlesnakes, that's a challenge. So you don't want to be in New Mexico in the desert at night and not think about rattlesnakes.
There's some rattlesnake stories, yeah. Okay. We had a medic on set every time we were in a location in the desert. We would have a little map that was part of the daily packet that would have the quickest route to the hospital.
Of course.
Yeah. Right. Where the hospital where you can get anti-venom.
Right. We had to have an anti-venom listing. That was cool. Scary.
That was neat.
We had a great art department. They did some really creative and amazing things with very little money.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the movie just turned out... It took a long time for us to post because on a low budget, you want quality.
It's 3D.
Right, it's really hard to shoot in 3D. And we took a lot of time in post to make sure that the movie was good because you have that sort of time, money, quality. You can have
You would have quality if you spend a lot of time and a little money. You can have quality if you spend a lot of money and a little time, but if you don't spend a lot of either.
Banshee Chapter was a slow burn. Margin Call got made and was in the festival circuit within a few months of each other. Banshee Chapter finished and we missed that opportunity. That was our plan. Our plan was to take the momentum, to put it out quickly. But things just took longer than we anticipated, and we needed to finesse things, and we stopped. Then we stopped creating any kind of false deadline or sense of urgency that we needed to get this movie into this festival by this date, because we didn't. That's not true. It's another thing that is an incredible quality of Hollywood is the sense of urgency that happens with all of these false deadlines. I hate false deadlines. I don't like being given them when they're not for no reason,
Right. You don't want to ever set a deadline that's going to be a detriment to your work. You want to be very realistic, and you want to give your editors and your post people enough time to do their job and to do it to their cap.
And everybody says we need to have the film finished by this day. And it's if there's a day's worth of work to do or close to that, fine, of course. But it's if you know where the film is and you're going to give that kind of a request, it's we're not going to follow that, really, because it's not what's going to be best for that movie. And by the way, don't get me wrong on this score. We've never missed a deadline with any of our financiers. We've always kept to it, and we're very respectful of anybody we're working with to meet those things. It's just, sometimes when there's a deadline that's just bullshit.
Yeah.
And when there's a deadline that's really going to matter for something, or contractually what you've signed paperwork and you're obligated to do.
Right.
On the bridge.
But you don't push something into a place where you're sacrificing the quality just to meet a Sundance submission deadline.
Is there an example of a false deadline you could give me that you basically realize, wait a minute, I don't need to follow this, or something?
False deadlines, yeah, I don't want to be too specific, but it's any of these major festivals, it's saying, look, with there are certain festivals that are marketplaces, that we know are marketplaces. And it's you want to be able to bring your film to a place that has the right marketplace where it's going to get the right exposure, so the right sellers come in.
Your ketchup? Yes, I was going to say, can I bring you some menu?
That would be great.
Great, thank you. So if you're looking at something, as Corey is saying, a marketplace like Sundance, Toronto's a great marketplace, AFM's a great marketplace. And if you look at those and you think, well, we could submit a work print of the film, a non-finished version, and that's the kind of deadline you want to be very careful about, because you don't want to lose your opportunity for your first impression. So where does your work print stand? You don't want to create a trailer for a movie that isn't shot yet, because that expectation is sort of, if you shoot just a trailer, some people, fans do that all the time. You see the fan film trailers for a Batman movie that doesn't exist, or a Batman movie, and that's great as a creative exercise also. But if you went out and shot just stuff for your trailer to make your movie early, that doesn't make any sense. So you actually have to shoot the movie and then cull down from that material to get the trailer. But you don't, if your work print is not a nearly finished, maybe your movie's finished but you're not color corrected, that's a good work print to send in. But a movie that's halfway through an editing process is not a good work print, because you haven't timed it. The flow of your movie and the feeling that you have isn't there. And so saying that you have to have a deadline for Sundance or a deadline for Berlinale,
People often will create a false deadline because they so badly just want something. Thank you. Also, gentlemen, we offer on Sundays a vegan prefix if anyone's interested.
a vegan what?
Prefix?
Fixed price. We went to, wow, not that we shouldn't be timed about this. Just the first thing, buttermilk biscuit with burnt orange honey butter. I just want a plate full of those, not really ground in it.
I'm really attracted to the deviled eggs and the smoked shrimp, actually.
I'll eat a deviled egg.
Because you want them. Because you want your movie in Sundance isn't a good enough pre-zone.
Yeah.
That, like, you have to make this deadline. And then people will say, well, if you don't screen it in Sundance, then it's never going to sell. And it's like, bullshit. What are you talking about? What does that mean? Of course that doesn't mean the odds. Even if you missed every single marketplace, like even if your film is not even accepted into a single festival and never has a venue in which to screen, you could still sell it.
Yeah.
You could still set up screenings. You could still invite every single buyer in town. And it's like, if you have a decent reputation, if you have a good quality thing, they'll come. So yeah, that's a false deadline.
Yeah.
Marketplaces create false deadlines all the time. It's great to use them when you can, but if you can't, it's not the end of it. Technical first screening in the U.S. is going to be in the New York City Horror Fest this coming Friday. So yeah, I'll be traveling to New York in a couple of days to go to that, and to see how it goes there. It's got some great reviews all over the place now. Ain't It Cool News just gave a glowing review right before Toronto. It won awards in Toronto and in the Fright Fest in London.
It won Scariest Film in London.
It won Scariest Film in Toronto, and it won third place audience award as well. So then the audience votes for their favorites. We also picked the bronze. So yeah, look, the movie's getting some great buzz. It's a really scary film. It is the movie we set out to make. We were not looking to make this gory, bloody, torture porn kind of thing, or like bloody axes being thrown in your face with the 3D elements. Like, that's not what we were doing. We were trying to make a really scary thriller genre film. And that's exactly what it's turned into now. And it's really scary. And there are no devices. There are no cheap tricks. It's a genuinely scary film. Director did a great job.
And did Blair Eric did a great job. And we'll be seeing it. It'll be released in theaters in January.
Yeah, we're going to do a pre-release on iTunes and on-demand kit if you 3D. So ones that have 3D capacity can watch it in 3D. You'll be able to see it now before it's in theaters.
So that'll happen mid-December. We're looking at maybe December 12th. Is all going to be our date.
All right. That is, I believe, that Thursday night that premiere on iTunes. So that's awesome.
So where did the name Before the Door come from?
The name Before the Door comes through Carnegie Mellon University. It's the name of one of the first acting exercises that you do at Carnegie Mellon. The way that came to be our company name is kind of funny. It was kind of a joke. Myself, Neal, and Zach we were headed to Florida to actually go seek the initial financing of the company, and we were driving from the airport, and look, there's Fool there.
Oh, wow.
We were traveling from Florida in the car, and we were just kicking different names around. We had probably like 20 or 30 we were kicking around. We were trying to find a name that unified the three of us. And this is before Sean was part of the company, or else I would say the four of us, but I was staying three at the time. And we just wanted to find something that we all could share in common. We were trying to come up with like Pittsburgh names, anything that like we can, relate to the three of us. And it was a bad joke I made in the back of the car where I was like, hey, what if we call ourselves Before the Door? And everybody laughed, and we were like, haha, very funny. But it found its way onto a list. And later, that list was shared with none other than J.J. Abrams. Zach was basically to ask J.J. to take a look at some of the different names we were pushing around and give his opinion. And he looked over the list, and he saw Before the Door as one of the names. And he just said, that's your company name, Before the Door. It's mysterious, it's interesting. So that's kind of how it became our company name. Between myself, Sean, Neal, Zach, we have a bunch of different movies that we're going to be going into for 2014. Unfortunately, we can't talk about a couple of them, but one of them that has been already discussed a little bit is called A Most Violent Year. It'll be J.C. Chandor's third movie. We are aiming to shoot it in 2014. We're just kind of putting some of the early pieces together right now, and solidifying some of the cast. I mean, I don't know how much we can say about the project.
Can you say a little bit about the story, or just the log line, or?
I don't know how much they've released yet. So it is a kind of like all is based. It's a very different movie. It is a dialogue-driven action sort of. I would say it's an action movie a little more than it is
Action and drama, not like action adventure. More along the lines of something with. I'm not comparing it, but more along the lines of something like The Godfather.
Right. Or maybe a Dark Knight or something along the...
I wish it was a superhero movie. That would be awesome.
Well, let me rephrase the question then. Without getting into specifics, you talk about your phase 1 and your phase 2. What's next as far as phases? What's next in your 5-year plan?
It's our 5-year plan right now. Is to grow. We're about growing without losing quality, without losing the roots of what it is we've managed to achieve here. We want to be able to produce. We want to be able to produce about twice as many films as we were able to in our phase 2. We want to expand it to television, and we want to hire more people, as we basically had been discussed. We want to. We want to be able to get to a point. We're working with the same players, actually. We've done enough movies and we've met enough people that we have a group of players of different, few different sources of equity, a few different, writers and directors, just different teams that we can really start capitalizing on, because when we work with people that we've worked with before, as is the case with most people, it's a well-oiled machine. Mm-hmm. And you can bypass a lot of the normal BS that can happen when you're getting to know somebody or learning about something. It's like we have a rhythm, we know what we're doing, and we're continuing to meet more and more people right now. But hopefully by the time we've grown this company, one of the reasons we're able to do it and do it steadily is because we can crank out quality quickly. Because we know all of the people we're working with, and they're amazing people and hard workers, and we just are going to have the same rhythm. Well, I snapped. Is that effective on this?
It's good.
We found that the people we tend to stick with are smart, but also kind. People who know what they're doing and are just nice. Yeah. In a business like this, it could be so often that we work with people who aren't nice. And Hollywood's reputation.
To everybody who's listening right now that's worked with us, we actually don't have anybody that we don't want to work with anymore. We just say,
but we've been very lucky to work with nice people and find those kind people, and those are the people we want to work with again. And to keep that reputation of being nice, nice guys.
If I could be bold, maybe one of the other most important rules to learn just in the entertainment industry in general is don't be an asshole. We're not assholes. We try not to be. We try to be very respectful and kind to everybody. Try to listen when it's appropriate to listen and talk when it's appropriate to talk. But if you're just going to be a jerk,
yeah.
It's you don't have anything. For our purposes at this point, nobody has anything that we want bad enough to deal with that. Not worth it. We'll walk right away from the situation.
It would be nice if we can go into a negotiation that wasn't drawn out weeks, but if we actually said, this is what we got, and what we offer is actually, we try to offer some nice enough things that it makes sense. That we just say, we don't have $20 million to give you, but we have...
Yes. It's awesome when people don't know what they're doing sometimes, actually. And it's if you want to play hardball with us, we can be oh, they're keeping all the money for themselves. And it's no, that's not what we're doing. We've made certain offers or offered certain things because that's what's allocated. It's I don't know. I'll tell you what the entire budget is of the movie. I don't understand where you think this money is coming from that we're just keeping from you. But if you want to be a team player, if you understand, for example, it's if we're making a $2 billion movie, we're making a $2 million movie then, which means that we have to be respectful to what that budget is, which means that half of this budget is not going to go to one person. That doesn't make any sense. That's not in the spirit of indie filmmaking, really.
Are you talking about acting talent or all above the line talent?
That's anybody. It's definitely not specific to actor talent right now. It could be anybody's, agent or manager who doesn't necessarily understand how the system works or like how an independent film could be made, like starts asking for things that there's no way we could possibly give.
Right, on a $2 million movie, you're not going to have anybody flying in private jets and staying 8 months in their mold.
People know what to negotiate for, just basically standards that they'll negotiate for, first class travel, like this amount of tickets, like for friends and family, this kind of living accommodations, this kind of stipend, all of these things where it's like, why are you asking me for all of these things?
When I just told you that we're making, a small meal.
And, that's... Don't be an asshole. That's all I really wanted to say.
Well, Conan O'Brien's last words on the last episode of The Tonight Show were, be kind and do good work. And that's what it boils down to.
Oh, that's interesting. It comes back to you. Everything comes back to you. I believe that when, you're good and kind, it's the golden rule. Do unto others as you'd like to have them doing unto you. Zach, as a celebrity, as a movie, as a TV star, he's one of the most gracious, kindest people you can meet. He makes time. He always makes time. We could be on our way to something. We could be running late, and if a fan stops him and says, "Hey, can I grab a picture with you? Can I get an autograph?" He takes a minute to say hello. Of course, he asks what their name is. They'll say it back to them. It takes 1 minute.
Yeah.
1 minute to do that, and he does it, and it comes back to hell a time.
So I'm more likely to say no. The fans for him to say no, he doesn't have time, than Zachary's.
Ready.
Just very kind.
It's so important not to ever look, particularly as a producer, particularly from this angle of Hollywood and what we're doing, it's important to remember who you are, remember what your roots are, how it is you came out here, and it's like, be good to the people that walk in your door, whoever they are, whoever's door you walk into, like, just be good to them. It's the human thing to do. I think a lot of people are so busy out here and are so stressed out and are working so hard to make lifelong dreams come true that they start to forget some of the little things.
And you know what? Those little things are the things that if they're noticed, and then we'll go back and do we try to be nice. Even if someone's nasty, we return it with kindness and see what you can get, And sometimes that's really worked, like where someone has just been absolutely nasty over and over and over again, but we continue to be nice, and that has helped the relationships. You kind of kill them with kindness, and other times you just really want to kick it in the teeth because they're jerks. But the fact is that doesn't get us any further than just being nice, and being a jerk never gets you anywhere.
Yeah, it does. So, I mean, it's a weird thing to say, 'cause it's pretty simple. You think it's common knowledge, practice, all over the world, but it's not.
No matter how much good work you do, or how famous you are, you really don't deserve anything more than anybody else does. You don't deserve to be in the front of the line. You don't deserve to be served first. You don't deserve... special treatment is...
It's a great example, actually. Like, here's another example of just not being an asshole and not necessary. There have been times on a crew or something where, like, on a shoot or with the crew where they'll let the producers cut in line of everybody else to get their food out. So we never do that, I understand when that happens or when it's necessary. Personally, I was in way surprised.
Mom said when they would be like, "You're a producer, go ahead. You're a producer, go." And we were just like, "Are you kidding? I don't want to be the douchebag. You're the people who actually do the work. You're the ones who are making this movie happen. Thank you. We'll stand in line and wait. If we wanted food earlier, we would have shown 5 minutes ago."
That's right. And as coming from a line producer background, I'm the last person to eat. I always make sure of that. So,
because you're making sure everybody else is
I would rather that we want new food, because while they're shooting, we can go out and get something. We can send some. They could send me out to get them something. I think the cast, sure, I can understand them needing to get food and get time to go back and prep, change costumes, do whatever. But no, producers, we're just regular people who happen to be in for the 3 or all, and not just the 6 weeks that we're shooting, or the 7 weeks that we're producing. Anyway, it's like, I don't know how other people produce movies, really. Like, I can't really say. I know how we produce movies. I know what we do. Thanks. Well, it seems to be working okay for us, and, you know, those are some of the mottos that we live by. It's like, I don't know what Harvey Weinstein does on a daily basis, like, you know, and I don't want to pretend that I do. But I know what we do. Right, we could imagine that other people are doing it wrong. Fact is, we're just doing the best we can. And if people like us, if we do a good job, the work comes out good, and the crew still talks to us at the end of the day, that's a pretty amazing set feat.
All I've ever heard from the crew is like, you know, you guys were really good to work with. It was a really nice experience. You treated us very respectfully. And I'm always very surprised because I'm like, well, what was it on your last experience? I thought that we were just treating you the way that we're supposed to treat human beings. But people always do say thank you. So it really does make you wonder, why? What is this nightmare? I mean, I hope I don't ever have a nightmare film. Like, that's all right. Our goal is to not have that scenario. It's to have challenges, of course, but
you know what? If we're prepared, if we're smart in the beginning and we do the things that we're supposed to do, there shouldn't be nightmares like that. There can be problems, and there can be, you know, someone could get sick, someone could get hurt, you could lose a day to weather, you could lose a day to a bad location.
I can't make a movie without getting seriously constipated. It's the worst. Like, I'm also traveling. During Marjorie called, you gotta eat healthy. That's what I'm talking about, this vegan thing. What? We should use this. I said you should. Second out. You to keep a healthy.
That may be the show's title. Okay, Margin Cone, we had a unisex bathroom, and sometimes catering was a little outrageous. So the last thing you want is a unisex bathroom where you can seriously have any, and like Demi Moore walk in.
But of course I was constipated. Like, I was so nervous using the bathroom on set because
the beautiful Demi Moore is there.
What if Demi Moore?
I had down three different floors and find a handicap bathroom that wasn't locked at night, so we could use that. So I was afraid that she would be in there. Wow.
When we shot Banshee Chapter, I made sure where I was staying had its own private bathroom.
It's true. It's true. I used his private bathroom when he wasn't there. Nice.
Oh man, yeah, it gets stressful, and then you get constipated, and that's the worst thing that can happen on a set.
You know what happens to me? Comes out green.
It comes out green?
It comes out green.
I hope that's it. That sounds like chlorophyll problems.
Well, it should be. That's good, though. You know, that means you're getting a lot of roughage.
That's true. Whereas elite means the roughage is coming through and not getting digested.
That's true, too.
Or you'd eaten a lot of blue icing. You could eat blue icing. You had blue icing from that cake I got the other day. Big green. It was sure was green for a week. Blue icing. Well, at first I was eating that cake for...
Really?
The blue dye, just a mess. Oh. What other horror stories do we have? We had a sandstorm in the middle of the desert during Banshee.
A car sank into like,
oh my god, Sam.
With sand, yeah, that was fun. With rattlesnakes coming out. Stuff like that happens.
Yeah, but it was not the end of the world. Oh, during Dog Eat Dog, we were doing that short, and the crew was using one bathroom, and they clogged the line, and it started backing up into the tub across from the toilet. And so while they were shooting inside the house, I was out of town. He was out of town. I had a plumber come, and he actually he opened up pipes outside, and he put in a tube and blew air through the pipes so that they could push out whatever was clogging.
Right.
Unfortunately, when you do that, all the stuff that's in the pipes shoots out another pipe.
Oh, God.
So, unfortunately, it was outside of where we're shooting, and it was where we had to load and unload all of our stuff. So I had to stand there with a hose for a half an hour and hose down all the driveway and area that was covered because there was like clumps of toilet paper and shit all over the sidewalk. And I had to pay the guy $300 to do it. And no one knew that it happened because was one PA who cleaned the bathroom after her stop. So she was really nice. She cleaned the bathroom while I hosed down the inside of the house. We had to close a window and the entire driveway so that people could walk through it later when we had to load out of that location. We've never ever told the person who owned the house that we were borrowing it from that this happened. So she does not know that her bathtub filled up with poop. or that we had to blow air through the pipes on the wall up.
Still sounds better than being constipated.
All the other things are about poop. What about when poop doesn't come out?
Do you know that I ran a one-man show for a while called Herpes Tonight? I'm an expert on herpes also. He was misdiagnosed and thought he had herpes, so spent the next few years working his way up the ranks.
When was this? It was like, I guess it was almost 10 years ago now, like 2000, no, not 10 years, 2006, 2005 maybe, in New York, I was diagnosed.
So he worked his way up the ranks of the... So I became a herpes expert at a support meter, sort of like all of Manhattan.
And I told people how to live with herpes until that I found out I didn't have it, and then I started lying to them about he not having. He just pretended he had it because he was so embarrassed that I didn't know how to get out of it then. Like, how do you come out to people who say, actually, after all these years of being in your herpes support group and running it, I don't actually have herpes. Dude, this is a funny story. I hope this makes it in.
He wrote a play, a one-man show about it, with his friend Brian Cho, and the two of them put it up in. Did you put you on?
And it was a 90-minute one-man play that I performed in, and I did it in New York and in Los Angeles, and it actually got really good reviews, and it's pretty educational. It'll teach you everything you need to know about herpes, from the history of herpes to celebrity herpes facts. Yeah, it's really great.
It's really sad that it's not a web series, but
What else can I say that's embarrassing? You ever made love to a hot apple pie before?
no. But I had the coconut cream pie that was almost real.
But did you warm it up? It's different, man. That's more like, that's not the same. It's cold.
And that's all the time we have and all that we can stomach, folks. Many thanks to my guests, Sean Akers and Corey Moosa, for a terrific dinner. Check them out on iTunes for their latest film, Banshee Chapter, and their next film, All Is Lost with Robert Redford, will be coming out soon. You can also find out more about Carnegie Mellon and Margin Call by visiting the links for this episode on our website. Our music this week is Sweet Georgia Brown by Latché Schwing. Please check out their website at freemusicarchive.org. We're starting to grow our Producers Lounge community, so if you'd like to submit either jazz music or banner photos for an episode, post a link on our Facebook page. You can like us on Facebook at facebook.com/theproducerslounge. Remember, you show your support for films by not downloading them, you show your support on Hulu by clicking on the commercials, and you show your support for podcasts by liking and commenting. And you can always check out our website, www.theproducersloungepodcast.com. Sorry again for posting this episode a little late in the week. Been spreading myself a little thin, but we hope to get future episodes back up to speed as usual per our schedule. Our next episode will be the amazing producer Tony Lund. So check him out next week, Thursday, posting at 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Thank you again. I'm your host, Richard Tucci. Join us next week for more cocktails and questions. And until then, keep producing dreams.